A very good evening to all of you. Once again, welcome to Ecoholics. Now, here in this lecture, we'll understand the most important thing that is actually causing main problem in the Indian economy. So, we'll see how this liquidity actually can actually give a certain kind of boost to the credit, etc. So here, this is a free test series program. So if you haven't registered, you can register on our website ecoholics.in. So these are the free test series. Now, apart from this, we start a discussion. So we'll just move on to the whiteboard. Now, if you see this new liquidity framework, first of all, this is very a new topic for all of you. So I would suggest that listen very carefully, and it may be a bit technical, थोड़ा सा technical हो सकता है आपके लिए, but I will try to make as simple as possible. So there are certain concepts, there are certain the correlations between the topics. So what you have to do, just sit back, concentrate, and just listen to me. And later on we'll have your doubts, and if you have any doubt in between, you can also comment in the comment box, but I'll give you the answer. If this is immediate question, I'll give you in between, otherwise I'll give you in the last portion of this lecture. Now if you see this new liquidity framework, what it is. Now if we see about liquidity, what does it mean? It means the availability of the money in the economy. Now that money may be in the form of credit. So now you know that Indian banks are struggling with the problem of non-performing assets. It means, what is the meaning of NPA? Banks are actually receiving deposits and they are lending out these deposit money into loans. Now, since their loans are not coming, because loans are their assets, they earn income from these loans. So that is why it is called non-performing assets, because loans are not coming back. What will happen? Depositors will demand their money, as their right is, so they can demand. But what about banks are struggling and mismatching their liquidity scenario? What would be the effect? The current situation is that they are not able to lend the fresh loans. So this is the scenario, and if these banks are not able to lend the fresh loans, what would happen? These fresh loans obviously will contribute towards the Indian economy, and since we have low GDP growth rate. So this is a scenario regarding the new liquidity framework. Now here liquidity management framework, जिसको हम कहते हैं LMF भी कहा जाता है, liquidity management framework, it is actually a draft. So whatever we are discussing in this lecture, it is a draft, not we can say a final document. Now this new framework will now give a realistic twist for managing liquidity. So liquidity को manage करने के लिए ये एक नया रियलिस्टिक ट्विस्ट देगा, जो हम देखते हैं क्या होगा इस कोर्स में. Now if RBI feels that at any time liquidity is getting tighter means shrinking, less liquidity, less credit availability in the market, then it can go for some longer repo. Now you know there are important tools, and one of the important tools regarding monetary policy, monetary or credit policy, is the repo rate. Now it can go for longer tenure of repo rates, maybe we can say up to 1 year, because you know RBI is working in the we can say the money market, and money market is the short term market that is related to 1 year only. So this is the main framework. Now the current repos, which are we can say maybe 14-day is the most popular, 14-day term repos, but these are less permanent. Whatever we are discussing in the new framework, these are less permanent in comparison to OMO. that is open market operation. You must have heard about this term. We'll see everything in the course of this live session. Now, whatever the draft proposed by the RBI, that is the Liquidity Management Framework of Reserve Bank of India. Although it comes with a perfect time. It means why? Because if you make the monetary policy, the main problem under monetary policy is about transmission. Transmission of policy rates actually quite inefficient, and these are not quite well. So there is always a missing link in this. There's always a missing link in this. It means if RBI will reduce the repo rate, banks are not following the same. Maybe they are reducing but less than the repo rate, whatever the reduction has done in repo rate. So this is the difference. So that's why this is a missing link. It means if RBI is downgrading the repo rate, banks should follow this. Now there are certain difficulties as well, so we'll see what kind of difficulties banks are facing. क्या क्या difficulties है जो बैंक face कर रहे हैं. Now, if we say LMF, that is Liquidity Management Framework, it is a draft proposed by Reserve Bank of India. It is, we can say, quite independent of monetary policy. So ये monetary policy से independent है. इसका monetary policy से relation नहीं है. Directly तो हम कह सकते हैं कि नहीं है. ठीक है. अब क्या होता है मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी में, क्या होता है, विच डिसाइड्स ऑन दी पॉलिसी रेट्स. एज अ सेड अर्लियर, जो रेपो रेट होता है उससे पॉलिसी रेट होती है और रेपो रेट से ही सारे रेट डिसाइड होते हैं. इसलिए इसका ये रिलेशन, डायरेक्ट रिलेशन अभी नहीं है. हाउएवर वी कैन से दैट दिस LMF, लिक्विडिटी मैनेजमेंट फ्रेमवर्क, इज क्रिटिकल इन मेकिंग चेंजेस टू द रेपो रेट. तो ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है LMF के रेपो रेट में जो चेंजेस हो रहे हैं, रेपो रेट में जो चेंजेस हो रहे हैं उसके लिए ये बहुत इफेक्टिव है. बिकॉज LMF इज नॉट अ रेगुलेशन, सो इट इज नॉट अ रेगुलेटरी और वी कैन से गवर्नमेंट इंटरवेंशन. So it is not a regulatory or government intervention, which is, we can say, quite independent, because repo rate is obviously a regulatory intervention by the RBI. Now till the time, we can say till September 2019, so till yesterday, what was there in the scenario that RBI was nudging the banks to reduce or to link their interest rates with the repo rate. अभी तक जो हो रहा था वो RBI नज करता था, फोर्स करता था बैंक्स को कि जो भी रेपो रेट में रिडक्शन हुआ है उसको कस्टमर्स तक और लोन्स में पास ऑन किया जाए. बट दिस हैज़ बीन डन बाय बोथ RBI और गवर्नमेंट द्वारा भी ये किया गया है. कैसे? गवर्नमेंट ने जो बात की है जो बैंक्स हैं उनसे. सो बाय we are seeing that the lowering these lending rates is obviously necessary, because this latest tool, which is known as Liquidity Management Framework, this latest tool is very vital. If we say that, because on certain loans there are certain rates like market benchmark rate, that includes repo rate again in the scenario. Now theoretically we can say that repo rate affects only 1% of NDTL of banks. Now I'll explain what is NDTL. NDTL is net demand and time liability. तो डिमांड एंड टाइम लाइबिलिटी क्या होता है? डिमांड में आपके सेविंग अकाउंट, करंट अकाउंट आ जाते हैं. टाइम लाइबिलिटी में आपकी FD आ जाती है, फिक्स डिपॉजिट, और RD, रैकरिंग डिपॉजिट. नेट क्यों है? क्योंकि इसमें जो भी प्लस माइनस होता है वो नेट हो जाता है. लाइबिलिटी क्यों है? बिकॉज दीज डिपॉजिट्स आर लाइबिलिटी फॉर द बैंक. तो ये जो रेपो रेट है दैट अफेक्ट्स ओनली 1% ऑफ NDTL, नेट डिमांड एंड टाइम लाइबिलिटी. Hence we can say it does not have much effect on the repo rate, since we can say it does not have much effect on their cost as well. If you see significantly in terms of MCLR data, you can go to the RBI's website and you can see the MCLR data. Now here we can say the liquidity framework works better whenever we have the good transmission. I hope you understand transmission. What's the meaning of transmission till this point? Now if this transmission takes place, what would be the first signal, what type of market will give the first signal. तो पहला सिग्नल हमको कहाँ से मिलेगा, वो मिलेगा कॉल मार्केट से. आई होप अभी तक आप मेरे साथ हैं. If you feel lost out in between, you can ask in the comment box, because very important to understand the background of this. Then we'll move on to the new liquidity framework. Now the most important thing, that is how this transmission affects. So this transmission is affecting by the most important rate here is the call market. Now call market is a very short term market, is a very short term market, maybe we can say overnight basis. Now call market, you can say that it is, as the name suggested, that the call market is the interbank market. Interbank market. So it is the interbank market. It means suppose there are 2-3 commercial banks, suppose A, B, C and D. समझ लो ये 4 कमर्शियल बैंक्स हैं, जैसे SBI, बैंक ऑफ बड़ौदा, ये सारे कमर्शियल बैंक्स हैं, एक्सिस बैंक, HDFC सारे. तो इनको आपस में अगर पैसे की ज़रूरत होती है तो दे कैन बोरो मनी फ्रॉम द कॉल मार्केट एज वेल, because overnight basis there is not availability of a repo market. So on an overnight basis they cannot borrow. That's why for the very short term they borrow money from the call market. As I said, that as you must have heard about that RBI is the lender of the last resort. So first they find out that they can take money from their peer group, so that is interbank. Now here the banks are lending and borrowing funds for the overnight basis depending on their liquidity. अब भाई साहब किसी को पैसा चाहिए किसी बैंक को, तो ऑब्वियसली दूसरे बैंक के पास वो लिक्विडिटी कंडीशन होनी चाहिए, तभी वो दे पाएंगे पैसा. Now this rate, whatever the call rate they will offer, this is purely dependent on demand and supply. Very important concept to understand. Now demand and supply condition, and it is not even directed by Reserve Bank of India. So there is no involvement of RBI here. It is purely dependent on demand and supply, because if suppose D, bank number D is having the surplus fund, then this bank D will give or will lend funds to A, C or B as well. But when there is no surplus, it means less supply, what will happen? They are not able to lend. So the call market interest rate will go up, and this is the first signal that interest rates are going up. तो ये हमारा पहला सिग्नल होता है जिससे हम समझते हैं कि कॉल रेट से इंटरेस्ट रेट बढ़ रहे हैं. Now we can say ideally we can say call rate will move in a regulatory constructed corridor. तो एक constructed corridor होता है कॉल मार्केट का, जो कॉल रेट्स हैं वो एक लिमिट में बढ़ते और घटते हैं, उनका एक दोनों साइड से एक एक्सट्रीम लिमिट होता है. Now sometimes it is just above the repo rate as banks go to this market when a repo market is closed. So repo window का जब ऑप्शन नहीं होता है तब कॉल मार्केट में they can go and they can borrow up to 1% of their liquidity support. अब क्या हुआ, therefore we can say the change in the repo rate will obviously affect the call rate almost immediately, because call market interest rates are generally above than the repo rate. So suppose repo rate goes up, obviously the interest rate in call market will also go up. I hope you are understanding this scenario. Now the lower limit suppose is reverse repo. So reverse repo क्या होता है? Repo आपको पता है repo rate क्या होता है? Repo rate is just when banks are borrowing money from the RBI by giving certain securities. Reverse repo is just the opposite. If banks are having surplus money, they can give to RBI, they can park their surplus to RBI. So in general books it is written that RBI borrows money from the banks. Obviously that definition is somewhat correct, but RBI doesn't need to borrow money from the commercial banks. So we cannot say that reverse repo rate is the rate at which RBI borrows money from the bank. Generally we can say this is the perfect definition, that whenever commercial banks are having their surplus money, they can park their surplus to the RBI. So this is the best definition for reverse repo rate. So suppose repo rate is the upper limit of the call market and the lower limit is reverse repo. So here it means we can say that these are certain limits for the call money market. Now RBI can influence the liquidity directly by guiding this call market through the control of a repo market. Now RBI would be very happy because now here the interbank market is based on demand and supply. It means no need to intervene in this. Obviously, if you see the history of the call market, if you see in 1990s, that is during economic crisis in India, call market rate was around 20%, and sometimes it is also 0%, crashing to nil. So it means we cannot say that they are always between the repo rate and the reverse repo rate. So there is, why this is happening, because there is no benchmark, rate to refer for the call market. Like what's the benchmark rate for the deciding the loan rate of the banks? It is the repo rate, क्योंकि जो repo rate होगा उससे कनेक्ट करके हम बेंचमार्क रेट जो बनाते हैं रेपो रेट को, उसी के अकॉर्डिंग बैंक लोन रेट डिसाइड करते हैं, सेविंग रेट डिसाइड करते हैं. तो जो कॉल मार्केट है देयर इज़ नो बेंचमार्क रेट, उसमें कोई बेंचमार्क रेट नहीं होता है. इसलिए जो भी प्रिवलेंट रेट होता है उससे आपको असेस करना होता है मार्केट की कंडीशन, लाइक डिमांड इज़ हाई और सप्लाई इज़ हाई. And obviously this, therefore we can say it needs support in the market like the repo market, because it will give, or it will ruled out, or it will reduce the volatility in the market. It will reduce the volatility, because if these rates are fluctuating too much, obviously it will bring certain amount of volatility. Now there is now the issue that how much money can be transacted into LAF. अब LAF क्या होता है? लिक्विडिटी एडजस्टमेंट फैसिलिटी ईयर 2000 में स्टार्ट किया गया था, जिसके कारण पहले हम बैंक रेट से पॉलिसी डिसाइड करते थे, बट LAF के बाद से वी हैव बीन फॉलोइंग रेपो रेट. So the 1% norm today comprises that 25 basis point. So whenever you borrow money under LAF, that is liquidity adjustment facility, that is the repo rate. So the norm today is that 1% of whatever they are getting loan, 25 basis points should be under overnight repo, and the balance, that is we can say 75 basis points, can be a term repo. So this is the new thing that RBI is going to introduce, कि जो टर्म रेपो है, टर्म रेपो का मतलब होता है उसका कोई ड्यूरेशन होगा. नाउ द मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी कमिटी फील्स दैट देयर इज नो सच लिमिट that will give the flexibility for the RBI in order to control the repo rate. So here we can say that it will give more flexibility for our central bank, that is Reserve Bank of India, in order to keep the liquidity stable, because the question is all about stability. मार्केट में इंटरेस्ट रेट स्टेबल होना चाहिए. जब इंटरेस्ट रेट स्टेबल होंगे तो ये चीज़ें जो लिक्विडिटी का क्वेश्चन है वो बार बार नहीं आएगा. सो इट शुड बी स्टेबल. इफ वी सी RBI कैन ऑल्सो ब्रिंग लिक्विडिटी to stability by using OMO. What is open market operation? It is simple: buying and selling of government securities, GSEC, buying and selling of government securities in the open market, obviously, which is done to reduce the volatility in the liquidity market. So here we can say that this can be transacted through LAF, liquidity adjustment facility. But what's the demerit of these OMO? We'll see in a while. Now if we the proposed framework, that is LMF, liquidity management framework, that is the proposed framework. Now here they are actually managing liquidity. If RBI feels that liquidity is getting tighter, it means that is less availability of credit as well as money in the economy. So it can go for the term repo, longer term repo, which may be up to, we can say, the 1 year, एक साल तक के लिए भी वो कर सकते हैं. Now you will say that the right now the RBI is using 14-day repo rate. It means अगर कोई बैंक रेपो रेट से लोन लेता है, मनी बोरो करता है, तो 14 डे में उसको रिटर्न करना होता है. बट जो टर्म रेपो है वो एक साल तक भी हो सकता है. इट मीन्स इट कैन बी अप टू 1 year. But now you will realize that OMO is also 1 year tenure. Then now what's the advantage of having this term repo? The most important advantage of having the longer term repo is managing the liquidity. क्यों मैनेज करना है? Because OMO is like we can say we have to conduct or we have to shift certain demand and supply of government securities, because by selling or by buying the open market operation government securities, it changes, it affects a lot of things like demand supply of the securities, their tenure, their yield, their we can say their prices. तो इतनी सारी चीज़ों पे अफेक्ट होता है जिसकी वजह से गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटीज़ की डिमांड ऊपर नीचे हो जाती है. तो उससे क्या होगा? बाय यूजिंग ओनली रेपो एज अ लिक्विडिटी मैनेजमेंट टूल with overnight repo and the term repo, it can give certain durability for the liquidity, and it is a way to we can say induce the permanent liquidity into the market. तो इससे permanent liquidity आ जाएगी. यही सेम चीज़ you can do in reverse repo as well. In reverse repo you can do the same thing if there is a surplus liquidity. It means you can buy these amount of liquidity into in terms of we can say forex deals, or we can say the forex swaps. So you must have heard about Shaktikant Das announced the foreign exchange swap for the next 3 years to 2022. India is buying 5 billion or RBI is buying $5 billion. That is the forex swaps. Now intuitively we can say that the operations in the call market obviously better linkage with the other rates as well, because call market will give you the best signal. If you see the crisis of 2008, it was evident that call market reacts we can say very proactively. सबसे पहले कॉल मार्केट में ही पता चलता है कि इंटरेस्ट रेट बहुत बढ़ गए हैं, इसका मतलब लिक्विडिटी नहीं है मार्केट में, और जब लिक्विडिटी मार्केट में नहीं है तो ऑब्वियसली बिजनेस विल कम टू स्टैंड स्टिल. सो दिस इज़ हाउ द लिक्विडिटी फ्रेमवर्क इज़ इन प्लेस फॉर ऑल द बैंक्स. तो ये सारी इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ें थी. इसका क्लोजर अलाइनमेंट करेंगे जिससे यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड द टारगेट एज वेल अबाउट द कॉल मार्केट, and these are market oriented solution for the monetary policy transmission. No regulatory, no compulsion for the banks. So this is how we can do it, and then they can derive the interest rates. So here the best benefit is OMO. We don't have to touch OMO, which is we can say it will become more predictable. And if you use the term repo as well as overnight repo in order to adjust the liquidity especially, so that will actually give an extra tool for the RBI to manage this. Now so that's it from my side. If you have any doubt, if you don't understand anything, and if you have any doubt regarding any concept, most welcome with your doubts. So I don't think so that there are doubts regarding this. So I hope you get everything what I said. So we'll meet again tomorrow at the same time, 10:30 p.m. with a new topic, that is every day from Monday to Saturday, daily live classes, and there would be no classes on the Sunday. Yeah, Dinesh, what are the demerits of giving a loan with a long-term repo rate? Is there any? Demerits is nothing we can say because repo rate is considered as a short-term market. So if there is a short-term market, then the long-term repo rate will give extra option for the RBI to actually give these loans to the banks if they require. It means, suppose in simple language, if I say that suppose you are the owner of two things, you have a 10 lakh rupees of suppose fixed deposit in the bank, and you have a house which is worth 10 lakh rupees. So obviously if you want to pay, suppose if you want to pay 10 lakh rupees to anyone, suppose to a bank, as the recovery of the loan, what would you break first? Either you sell your house or you can break your fixed deposit. Obviously for all of us will choose that we should break the FD. सबसे पहले आप FD को तोड़ देंगे और लिक्विडेट करके बैंक को वो पैसा जमा कर देंगे. तो on the same lines, term repo is working as the more, we can say, flexible option in order to pay to a particular banks in order to maintain the liquidity by selling or buying these OMO, ओपन मार्केट ऑपरेशन गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटीज़. क्योंकि गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटीज़ अगर आप बेचते हैं तो उनके टर्म्स के साथ चेंज होता है. मान लीजिए वो सिक्योरिटी 2 साल की थी बट लिक्विडिटी के चक्कर में आपको मान लीजिए 1 साल में ही बेचनी पड़ी. फिर उस पर जो ईल्ड है, जो परसेंटेज ईल्ड है, वो 2 साल के हिसाब से थी, मान लीजिए 8%, तो 1 साल के हिसाब से उसको एडजस्ट करना पड़ेगा. उसकी प्राइजेस क्या है, किस प्राइजेस पे वो गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटी बिक रही थी, वो भी ऑल्टर करनी पड़ेगी. तो ये सारी चीज़ें करने से मार्केट में डिस्टर्बेंस आता है जनरली रिगार्डिंग गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटीज़ मार्केट. So maybe this would be a better option for the RBI. Especially the most important key is here transmission. कैसे ये ट्रांसमिशन पूरा किया जाए, ये बहुत बड़ा क्वेश्चन है और ये पिछले 10-12 साल से बहुत बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है इंडियन मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी की. कि RBI जब रेट बढ़ाता है तब बैंक्स आर क्विक टू इंक्रीज देयर इंटरेस्ट रेट. व्हेन RBI डिक्रीजेज द इंटरेस्ट रेट, बैंक्स उसको फॉलो नहीं करते हैं, वो रिलक्टेंट रहते हैं. तो कई बार स्टैगनेंट होता है, कई बार छोटा इंक्रीज होता है. तो ये प्रॉब्लम है. तो मेनली बैंक्स को यही चीज़ करनी है कि जो ट्रांसमिशन है वो ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा इफ़ेक्टिव हो सके. दिस इज़ द डिमांड ऑफ रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया. So that's it for today, and if you have any doubt you can again post the question whenever this live session will end. You can always post in the comment section as well. So please don't forget to like, share and subscribe Ecoholics. You'll get the daily live classes, daily current discussion, and these current discussion will help you in a lot of examination like UPSC examination related to IAS, that is civil services, Indian economic services, mainly Reserve Bank of India if you are giving the exam of grade B etc. And so you can find out this. Now yeah, Dinesh, the same thing happened with the petrol prices. What same thing? Yeah, we can say that government, when petrol prices were actually decreasing, government started imposing excise duty. But when petrol prices are going up, government is reluctant to actually decrease the tax rates. So we can say that more or less the same problem with the petrol prices as well. So government has to reduce actually. But I would happy that, because if petrol becomes, we can say, affordable, that will actually contribute towards environment. So environmental degradation may be the cause. So around 80 rupees per liter is a decent price. So people will drive carefully. So I think The petrol prices are good. If they go beyond 80, then government should reduce the tax rate. So because when there were low prices of petrol, government was taking too much taxes. So it's time to pass on the benefits to the consumer. So I would, uh, we can say, I would advocate this advice to the government that if it crosses 80 rupees, like we are having in today's scenario, then government should reduce the tax in order to make petrol affordable. So that's it. Thank you so much. Good night. We'll see you soon tomorrow. Bye bye.